Hello, everyone, and welcome to our online info session for CFP certification courses at Ashton College. My name is Lindsay, and I'm with the Marketing Communications team. Today, I'm joined by several colleagues. We have Rika as our technical host, Maggie from admissions, and we have our instructor, Derek. There are a lot of ways to engage with us during the session, and we love hearing your questions. On Zoom, you can use the chat box, Q&A box, or the raise the hand function. If you're tuning in on Facebook Live, you can leave us a comment, and we will be able to answer your questions live during the session. If you're watching this video on YouTube, you can leave us a comment or connect with us by email at ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca or give us a call at 604-891-1256. We also have a toll-free number, which is 1-866-759-6006. Hi, Derek. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Nice to be here. Hi, Lindsay.
Awesome. Hi. So first, could you share with us a little about your experience, your educational background, and what brought you to teaching?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great question. So just to shortly introduce myself. So I have about 10 years of experience in financial services industry. I started as a financial planner. At that time, it was more of a financial advisor because you really need to acquire experience in order to become a financial planner at the time. So that was where I started. And I moved around working in the financial services industry and doing a little bit on the mortgage side and doing a little bit on the financial planning side. Right now, I'm working at a Sunlight Corporate Investment. And what I'm doing here is investment consulting on the client reporting. And in terms of my education background, so my college concentration, which is major, was in business administration and management. And my MBA major is in financial engineering. I took it at the U of T, so Rodman School of Management. In addition to that, obviously, I'm also the CFP certificate holder. Is one of my proudest destinations to have. In addition to that, I also have Chartered Financial Analyst, CFA, Chartered Alternative Investment Analyst. So yeah, just the chart here. And as well as the other courses. For example, if you are working in the life insurance industry, then you probably heard of LLQP. And if you're working in the mutual fund industry, you probably heard about CSC, IFC. So I have those as well. And probably one thing to reassure you that I really like to study is that I was able to pass those exams, the one I just mentioned, on the first attempt. And so I was very lucky in that sense and really like to teach about financial services topic. And this is my favorite, so that's why I'm here. So I started teaching at Ashton probably 5 years ago for LLQP. At that time I was still in Vancouver, but right now I moved to Toronto. So there was about 2-year vacancy. I was teaching remotely, and I started teaching CFP online starting last year because of the pandemic. So this is by the technology is a blessing. So yeah, great to be here. It's just short about me. Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah, you have a lot of letters behind your name, it sounds like.
Thank you.
So just so we have some context, can you talk a little bit about the Certified Financial Planner designation and also a little about the Qualified Associate Financial Planner certification, how their pathways may differ, and yeah, just your thoughts on them.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I think that's a great question. So if you look into this QAFP, so if you kind of wrote that on a time machine like 2 years back, we don't have something called QFP. This is a brand new destination. So it used to be something called FPSC level 1, which is a pathway destination before you can become a CFP. So usually you pass the exam 1 and you go to the exam 2, and then once you finish exam 2, obtain your experience, then you can become a CFP certificate holder. But 2 years ago, FP Canada used to be called FPSC, which is a financial standards setting body in Canada here. They are part of the CFP organization, of course, worldwide, and they are the Canadian branch. So FP Canada, they changed the rule. They started introducing something called a QFP. I think the reason why behind that was because right now they are introducing the degree requirement for the CFP. So starting 2022, you need to have a bachelor degree to become CFP. And you need to have a 2 years associate, I think it was diploma level, in order to become a QFP. I think that's the new education requirements. Before there wasn't any requirements. So I think that's probably the reason why they started QFP. And that's back to the pathway. So essentially what you need to do for both of them, you can see the QFP as a mini CFP. So in order to obtain your QFP, you need to finish what we call the core foundation. So this is 12 module courses that are designated by FP Canada. And here we just basically here the model and the schedule. So you need to complete the 12 courses starting from industry, regulation to financial analysis, how to use your calculator. So the calculator is the one you need to be able to calculate what's the present value, future value, and all sorts of computation that are useful for the financial planning. So for example, if I ask you, what is my retirement income if I can accumulate certain money? Those are the things you need to get. So the first 12 courses finish that you get your core, and you will be eligible to take a professional ethics program at the FP Canada. And once you pass that, then you can take your QFP exam. So this is for the QFP. And the CFP, then you just need to have 2 more courses essentially. So one is called the advanced curriculum. Advanced curriculum course is, you can view it as a consolidation of what you have learned in the previous 12 modules. So previous 12 module in the core foundation, we basically laid you a very, very solid foundation in terms of what are the credits, what are the registered plans, and what are the investments, economics, taxation, legal, human behaviors, all those topics, right? And in advance, we just combine this. So you can see it as an upgrade. I don't like to use, I don't use use this kind of term, but you can view it as an upgrade, the consolidation. So that's what you are really getting into. So once you pass this advanced curriculum course, and there will be additional requirements for CFP professional program at FP Canada. Once you have done that, then you can see for the CFP exam. And once you clear a CFP exam, plus 3 years worth of experience, then you can obtain your CFP certificate. So that's just a
Wow.
about how it works. And please, yeah, check with their website. They have a lot of information on how the QFP bridges to CFP. But again, just remind you that you won't always check the current rule because I think in these 2 years, they have changed a lot. And they're starting introducing a new rule like education program starting next year. So watch out with that.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
So what type of professionals would benefit the most from these certifications?
Yeah, I think this is a good question, and I have chatted with my students in the past and with my colleagues in the past as well. I think this is something that we really need to bring to our students, is that for CFP, it's not just the financial planning. It's actually about the readiness of the financial services industry. Because in the financial planning, you need to learn many aspects of financial services. You have to learn from the banking. You may not practice in banking in your life. You may not know or working with CDIC, for example, you need to learn about that. You may never do mortgage yourself, but you need to learn about how the mortgage was constructed, calculated, how the interest rate curve is going to change. You may not use this at all in your life or in your career. But these are the things you are going to learn in the CFP program. And from all the courses that I have been able to teach at Ashland here and the courses I've been taken before, I can safely say this, that CFP is actually a very, very down-to-earth program, and you can use not just professionally, but also your personally. This is the first part. And in terms of what you can do with this destination, so I think there will be a thing that will be shown later, which is the compensation, the average compensation for the CFP professional. But anyway, you can start with, if you're working at a branch or you're working with the big 5 banks, then you're starting as probably like a personal banker, or starting with FSN, and you're still slowly moving up. And this destination is critical. It is because, for example, in British Columbia, financial planner is actually a restricted title. You need to have a CFP in order to claim yourself as a financial planner. So this has becoming a hard requirement for most of the banks. So just right before I can do this session, I just did some Google searching because I think this is an interest topic of many. So I just want to read out loud like what I'm seeing here. So I'm just doing a linking and a typing financial planner. So I'm seeing here, for example, for the BMO. The BMO just first one to pop up, and they have typically 3 to 5 years experience. CFP destination is preferred, but however, they also take a PFP. PFP is, okay, so what is PFP? PFP is the previous version of the FPSC level
Okay.
1. So that is actually kind of like a gradually just change the name, but the CFP doesn't change. The CFP has been there for since the inception. And if you look at RBC, so right now I'm just reading a lot from here. So look at RBC, CFP is preferred for your financial planner position. If you look at TD, okay, here financial, so CFP is required. Okay, so this is the thing. So if you're working at a TD and you really want to move out to their Waterhouse channel, you want to become a financial planner, then it is required. And we know that CFP is actually getting more and more popular within this channel, not just because of that, but also because it's program recognition. So for example, if today you want to work at, let's say if you want to say from the top, then you can say IROC. So IROC, they have just name a few, obviously Dominion Securities, CBS, CIBC Ugandis, or like a Scotia McLeod, they all have a financial planning specialists. BMO, of course, we're talking about SB Burns, TD Waterhouse, right? And the independents, we're talking about Raymond James, and we can look at Canaccord. So those are the guys that are actively in the market, and we do need more planners. So you have a lot of places you can go, whether you want to go to with these big companies and big shops, or you want to run as independents. CFP is an ideal. Although I'm not practicing on the CFP on the financial planning side right now because I'm more on investment right now, but CFP really sets a very, very good foundation for me, personally and professionally.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. So let's talk about the courses for a second. So what's the general structure of the course, and what are some main topics covered in all the courses?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So in terms of the foundation, we have 12 courses. So you can check from the website or you can check at Canada because the modules are identical. For the starting, so CFP01, you will be learning about the regulation industry. You'll be learning some acronyms, for example, CDIC, what is the deposit insurance, and who are the big players are. So if you have ever worked in the mutual fund industry, then you probably heard about MFDA and what is MFDA is doing, SRO, what they are doing for us. And then in terms of a regulation and what if any member firm fails, then you will have MFDA IPC 1 million compensation to guarantee that their customers are being protected. So you will be learning all of these kind of things in the CFP01, and this course has 21 hours allocation. And after that, we'll be starting moving to, I would say, probably the most critical course and probably the most important. If you want me to rank which one is most important, I would say the CFP02. This is a financial analysis. So you will learn how to use the financial calculator well. So your financial calculator, you will be able to compute the different values for example, the present value, interest rate, or future value. So a very, very quick example here is that imagining that if you are saving $500 a month, $500 a month you put into your registered retirement plan. And so this is tax shelter. And if you are saving this for the next 20 to 30 years, so by the time you retire, let's say there's an age of 65, assuming that we haven't lived that, of course, it's a spoiler, but it's already lived it, it's just 67. And I think in our age, it will probably go up to 67, 69. I don't know what exactly, but this is longevity here. But anyway, so before that, so take you back a little bit. So we kind of find how much money you will be able to accumulate it. So at that time, you probably have $500,000, $600,000 if your investment was successful. And from that time, you will be start calculating what's the retirement income and coming down. And I think this is critical because one of the most important, well, pressing issues in Canada is that we don't have enough retirement income, or people are not confident. We simply need more planners. So if you look at the people's lifespan, sorry, it's a long part, but if you look at people's lifespan, I think this is the problem is. So if you're thinking about an individual that is graduated from college at 25 years old, and they start developing their career, at this time, it's very hard to save any money because this is the time limit to pay their student loan. And at age of 30, what's going to happen? At age of 30, what is going to happen is they probably will have to get married and have kids. We're just talking about typical. And at this time, they starting having, oh, wow, I need to save for my down payments. I need to save for my mortgages. I need to save for my car loans. I need to save for my other education needs for my children. So I just keep spending money, and until 55, finally, my kids are out, I become empty nesters, and now I can safely retire. But no, wait, not yet, because you haven't saved any money because you claim that you have a student debt, you have a mortgage, you have every other expenses you claim to have, but you haven't saved any except for your company pension. That's very lucky that we have that, and also CBP. But at this time, thinking about, you only have 10 years left if you still want to retire at 65 to save for the remaining 30 years after 65. And this is a problem. This is a pressing problem of typical Canadian. So in this course, back to here, or you can say this is pretty much CFP is all about. Mm-hmm. That if you think about this course, is really to help you to understand how the computation works. So we will go into the deep and understand time value of money and do a compounding and this kind of topics, and we'll be covering. And the CP03 is just an extension, but more on the credit and debt. You will be exploring more advanced financial calculations in other way, because they will have some mortgages embedded. So you need to be able to calculate what are mortgages, interest rate, mortgage payments. If I tell you if it's 30 years mortgage, after 15 years, you already pay so much, then what is your remaining balance, or for etc. So those are the things that we'll be covering in the first 3 courses. And after that, we'll be moving on to the registered retirement plan, registered education plan, government benefits. So those are the things that we will need. And in Canada, most of the retirees are relying on 3 sources: CPP, OAS, and GIS. And these are the 3 things that we use the most often. And so these 3 things will be covered in the government benefits. RSP is is definitely the major tax saving tools here. I believe most of us, and if you enroll in a company plan or you have ever heard about it, is part of it. And the TFSA or ESP if you want to save for your children's education. So this will be, I would say, the second portion that you will be encountering to. And the next 3 courses, I would say, is insurance, legal, as well as the economics and investments, right? So this is our session. And the 12th course, the last one, I kind of just skip it a little bit, but it's just kind of overview. The last course is on the human behaviors. And human behavior, this is a new module that introduced by FD Canada. Before we didn't have that. So when I was taking my CFP exam, I didn't have that. But right now they have it, and it is because right now we can see the human behaviors are actually playing a very, very big portion in terms of decision making. So for example, if you ever watch like movies and in terms of like why the trading fails and looking at why people are making certain decisions. I think this is very interesting. So I kind of just before this session, they can just bring an example from my last CFP 12 class. So in there, this is something called a prospect theory. Prospect theory states that actually we will make decision is not based on 100% rationality. So a very quick example without any details. Just think about right now you have 2 options. The first options you can obtain $100 with 50% chance, or $0 with 50% chance. And the second option is you will get $40 with 100% chance. Which one will you pick? And I think most people will tell me, oh, we'll probably just pick the first one because by expected return, I should be getting $50. If you know how to multiply 50% times 100 and plus 50% times 0, then it's $50. So that's right. And I think this is actually an accurate answer. I would choose the same. But what if I lift this number to $100 million? If you got $100 million with 0, 50% each versus $40 million in student. And in this case scenario, I would tell you that I will always choose the second one. I would not choose the first one, although I know it's not optimal. It is because with 40 million, I know my life is set. Whether I have an additional 60 million, it's really not going to make, it's going to make a lot of difference, of course, but not as much of a difference to getting the first 40. So I think this is some kind of behavioral traps that we have. But as a portfolio manager, as an investment advisor, or as a financial planner, you should really to recognize these other traps that we have. Overconfidence, people think they can outperform the market. If you have friends that they claim they can do 20% a year, well, that's great. You know what? They should be the CEO of Goldman Sachs because I really believe that they should. Because even though Warren Buffett only does 20%, so I think it's just the things. So it's like a long story short. This is just the 12 fundamental courses that we'll be encountering, and after that, you will have the advanced curriculum that pretty much just pick. You can view it as like a pick a topic and they're just going to be deeper and deeper and combined together, because a lot of topics are not necessarily combined when you are talking about 12 courses, but when you have one final one, they kind of just touch on everything and in a deeper level.
And if you want to do the CFP exam, you have to do all 13, correct? You have to do the 13th one as well.
Yes, you have to complete this 13 courses, and that's been set up by FP Canada. Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and the 2 additional courses on FP Canada. So you want to double check because before they will have something called a CAV capstone. You can take it with the course provider, but right now it's not an option. You have to take the 2 courses with FP Canada. So for that, I don't have the details, but that's a new thing they introduced.
Interesting. Okay. And it sounded like, I forget if it was the second or third course, but the one that would be good for people who just want personally to know how to prepare for their future. It sounded like it was the second one or third one where
yes,
it was good for them to calculate and find out.
Yeah, exactly. I would say that's a very, very critical part because on your actual exam. So before I was teaching CFP here, I was actually lucky. I was actually invited to, well, as a current CFP certificate holder, of course, to write the Lear market exam here in Ontario. So I wrote 2 times. So including the one I passed, I actually had 3 times of writing. And I can tell you, financial analysis portion is probably the most important because we felt that. Okay, here's the thing. For a lot of other topics like register plan or the financial planning in general, a lot of soft skills that you can, honestly, you kind of make up, but you can kind of improvise a little bit as long as you touch on that. A lot of times you feel comfortable, but for financial analysis, the calculation, it's black and white, right? It's either you know it or you don't know it. So that's why I say it's the most important. And because you need a financial knowledge portion to be completed in a proper manner in order to answer any follow-on questions relating to that. So that's why it is important.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So could you describe your teaching style?
Yeah, so my teaching style, I try to engage with my students. It's becoming more challenging because right now we're in an online environment, but I do appreciate that most of my students so far, been last 2 years, they are all working professionals. It's actually quite amazing that you see the working professionals with diverse backgrounds, and some of them are very well established that they are already in their MDRT and a core table. Well, that's actually pretty high status, be honestly. That's what I believe. And you all have students that are coming from just right out of school and they're trying to obtain their first license. So we have a diverse background. So what I'm trying to do is not to give, it's unlike the typical college students, like, okay, I'm going to give you an assignment and this is the due date. You have to come to the class on time, participate. I do appreciate that you taking time as a professional, and I do recognize that. So I'm trying to bring as many life cases as I can. It is because I think, well, if you just want to take the program, you can just read the textbook and take an exam and you'll be done. But I don't think that's the value. So I think the life interaction is really to add my personal experience and other students' personal experience. So before, when we have a class, that's actually easier. But right now it's getting more difficult, but I'm trying my best just to provide additional things and just add some colors and make this process more not necessarily entertaining, but more engaging. Yeah, engaging is probably a better word than entertaining.
Yes. Perfect. So what are your expectations of the students who enroll in the course, and how much time do you see them spending outside of the class?
Yeah, so that depends on your background. So again, from my experience for the past 2 years, I've been seeing students that are already having a very solid foundation. They've been in the industry for a number of years. Some of them do have a mutual fund license before. Some of them do have LQP license before, and it depends on the topic. If you are if you are absolutely zero in financial planning and you haven't take any like economic course, then I would say you probably need to spend at least probably 6 to 8 hours on a weekly basis. For some of the courses, the more challenging one, you probably need to spend a little more, depends on how fast you can grab the concepts. But I would say this is actually a very, very comfortable range, and you should be able to master the material without doubt. So I would say 6 to 8 hours. But if you already have some experiences, and it depends. If you have a QB experience, like a life license, you already have a license. I'll be honest, the insurance module, you can pretty much use a free ride because the LQB actually taught you in more in depth, right? Because I used to teach LQB, so I can tell you. And for the investment module, if you took CSC before, then you will find the information about equivalent. I took CSC exam before, so I kind of have this kind of sense. But the CFP is actually more evaluating on the financial planning side, so you probably need to spend a little more time, but not too much. So it's very hard to give you a finite, but I would say if you can schedule like 6 to 8 hours and to whatever that you have extra, yeah, just see it as a bonus, right? So yeah, that would be
Perfect. So yeah, it's varied for the background of the person. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you think students will enjoy most about the courses?
Yeah, so I think when applicable, when it's relevant, then I will try to provide some of the real life cases and examples, as I mentioned earlier. So for example, in our last insurance class, so there was a student, he was interested in learning more about the whole life participating account, and he was interested to learn, so he sent me an email, he was interested to learn what's the difference between the Minute Life, Sun Life, and the Canada Life, especially Canada Life because they have like Greater West Life and a couple of different participating accounts. That was the one that he was in there. So what I did is actually did some advanced preparation and went on to the website and find out their annual statements, and I look at their kind of account summaries, and we kind of just have an active discussion in the class. So pretty much it just goes to that something you will never really learn from the textbook. It's something in real life, but you will be able to understand it. So for example, that I was talking about, there will be three major factors, right? So one is interest rate. The reason why dividend yield has been coming down so much is because of the interest rate. And this is a prevalent fact. Right now, if you look at what is the interest rate you will be getting from your bank account, I think this is the first example. And probably second is looking at the mortgage, right? So thinking about the one, you are the one that is investing, borrowing mortgage to someone else, then your interest rate is the investment returns are going to be low. So I think these are the issues that we're facing right now. So we had the discussions and looking at what's happening in the past. So so he was asking me before the dividend rate was 10%. And why was that happen? So I brought him back to the story, which I really like, is back to 1982. If you remember the Volcker, that was the guy that kind of raised the interest rate. At that time, if you just invest in the mortgage, or if you just put your money into the bank account, the bank pays you 14%. 14%, 1/4. I'm not kidding. It's actually 14%. And the GIC, 5-year GIC, you can get about 16%. Depends on the bank, of course. Lower side, you can get a 10, but I think 14 is probably higher. But that was the time. The environment is completely different. When you want to finance a house, you want to get your mortgage, is probably you're looking at 15% interest rate. Right now, comparing to today, we say 3% is high. So no wonder that the interest rate coming down is going to compress the investment return. So I think this kind of real life cases, and we're really trying to bridge what's happening. And I'm really trying to bridge what I have learned so far and bring to a class. Sometimes it can be probably just overkill, but I really like to bring a story aspect. And I find my students appreciate this. At least they told me so. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How much can students expect to make after they graduate and pass the exam?
So this question, I think, is better to delegate back to the FP Canada. So I'm not holding liable. So I think there's actually a slide you can show here, but I just want to look at the profile of a profession. So for the CFP, right now in Canada, there's 16,422 CFP professionals, 68% male, 31% female. And the 26% of them are making more than 200K, and the 55% making more than 100K. So this is the stats like kind of polled. Of course, you're able to consider the experience because the majority of the CFP certificate holders, they are well above their 30s, and we are taking the average effect, right? So here, if we add up 26 and 55, we have 81%. So about 80% are making more than 100K. I think this is actually a very, very good number. And I don't know if any other destination can have this kind of output. This is actually a very, very stellar result. And in terms of QAFP, because this is new, again, they didn't call it QAFP before, and you will have 41% make more than 100K, and 7% more than 200K. Yeah. So I think this is a very good result. Sorry, I have to make a quick correction here. When I say the combined 80%, it shouldn't be combined. It should be reading as 55% make more than 100K and the 26% making more than 200K. Yeah, sorry, I was interpreting wrong initially. So you can say 55% above 100K, and this is a very good number.
Wow, so six figures, it sounds like.
Yeah. So yeah, and if you check the Stats Canada, if you look at the income, so 100K definitely makes your family, in terms of like family household, make you the top 20%, and we can see this is a very good ratio.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is there a lot of interaction during the classes? Do you have a chat box function or a discussion forum for in between classes?
Yes, the chat box and the discussion forum, they are also available. I always encourage my students to open up their camera and also ask questions, interrupt me at any time. And it's becoming very challenging for the online format, but we are trying to encourage as much participation as we can. And last but not least, I understand that you are professional workers, so I don't want to restrict you or force you to make your participation mandatory. So don't be afraid I'll be calling you like a cold call because someone was asking me whether I would do that. I said no, I won't do that. Yeah.
And how about for in between classes? Are you able to get in contact with you if they need help or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I always share my email with my students. So usually encourage them to ask me any questions if they want to see something that's been prepared. Because for some of the modules, I think we are, I think the course plan has been gone much faster than the original plan because for example, for CV01, we have a 21 hours allocation, while the contents we have is we can probably finish within like a 15 hours or so, or even less than that. So we will need to find some bridges to get those. And I think this is actually great opportunities, right? So you can ask any questions and I will see what I can bring to the class. For example, the last time right now with the CV01 going on, and we kind of just going through some of the advanced material, they will be seeing CV02, probably a little bit faster, but that's what I'm trying to put in there. Make sure every minute counts. Yeah, I'm trying at least. Yeah.
Perfect. So what does success look like in these courses and how can students help themselves to succeed?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think because this is a certificate course, and in the end, it's really not about me or the Ashton. It's about whether you will get your CFP or whether you will get your QAFP. So I think my core objective is to really to help you to prepare yourself. So when you are walking to the exam room, you are not be surprised by the material. And then it's like, oh yeah, Derek probably already mentioned that. I'm not like, okay, well, it's probably something I've never seen before. It shouldn't be that way. So I really want to help you and train you well on that. And you will have the module quiz, and after each module, just to test your understanding, you need to pass that because that's the FP Canada's requirement. And after that, I hope you have confidence, and I hope you can pass on your first attempt. So from the stats that I'm seeing right now, it's about 70% of the test takers pass their exam on every single setting, which means that will be still 30% unfortunately fail. So what I'm trying to say here, this is a challenging exam because everyone who is eligible to sit in that room have already completed this program. They did entire 12 module or equivalent in the past, so they can sit in the exam room. But still, we still have a 30% elimination. So, so this is a challenging exam. I really want to help you to navigate and prepare you well. That will be my goal. Yeah.
Awesome. So we've already talked a little bit about the 13th course, the advanced one. So we can skip that question unless you have any more you want to say about why it's a separate course or why it's part of the program but separate.
Yeah, I would say it's just addition to that. It's probably just a consolidation, and CFP 13, the advanced one, is required for CFP, but not for QAFP, right? So yeah, that would be the main difference. So if you're just taking QAFP, you don't need to take the advanced. But I would encourage you just 2 more courses to go. You're already done 12, right? Yeah.
Perfect. So let's talk a little bit about the exams. Can you tell us the format of the exams and what are some different qualifications or requirements needed to take the CFP or the QAFP? You've talked about it a little bit, but maybe just the format would be nice.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I'll be honestly, I haven't taken QFP because it's relatively new, and at the time I was taking the CFP directly. And so I can only comment on the CFP, but I would imagine QFP will be the same. So CFP, there will be 2 parts basically. The first part will be the multiple choice, and the multiple choice are very straightforward. Basically, ask you for your understanding. Usually, CFP exams are testing on your comprehensiveness instead of like any well, they will ask for details because those are the things you need to know. Like they're not going to tell you 18% to calculate your RSP, but you need to know by heart, and I believe most people do know by heart. And you would need to be able to understand and interpret what's happening to the clients and then make your recommendation. So there will be parts that require calculation, so you have to use your financial calculator and you do the calculation and fill in the blank and give it a final result. And in the end, you need to justify whether this is enough or not enough. For example, if the retirement income is 9, or let's say, putting an example, if the clients want to have $100,000 retirement income to live comfortably at their retirement age, then you would do your calculation, you determine it's only 87. Then what will you do? So there are a couple of things you can do. One is to raise your expected return, right? This is one thing you can do. And the one is to lower your standard of living at the time you retire, right? So there are a couple of things you can do, and they will probably ask you what are the associated risks that will be there. So first one I can think of is longevity, right? Longevity, you just live longer, so you probably run out of retirement income. And the second thing is probably inflation, because inflation is something that takes away from your value of money. So these are the couple of things that you need to get very flexible with, and this will be something that will be tested on the exam. But I think if you're prepared well, it shouldn't be a big surprise to you.
Awesome. So I had a few questions left. Before I ask them, I do want to just pass the mic off to Maggie so she can talk about the mission and some other course details. Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you, Lindsay, and also to our instructor, Derek. Thank you for deliberately sharing all this information. I appreciate it. And hi, everyone. My name is Maggie, Admissions Officer for the Division of Continuing Education. And Ashton College offers the QAFP and Certified Financial Planner courses in partnership with Advocates and is an FP Canada accredited core curriculum. We offer instructor-led live online courses for the core curriculum program and the advanced curriculum program for CFP. Each course is designed to give a detailed understanding of the financial services industry, and our study format is also developed to meet flexibility among our students. Please visit our website at ashtoncollege.ca under Continuing Education, Financial Services courses to find our start dates and their timings. Each course has different registration fees and duration. For the June start date, we have the CFP 05 or Government Benefit Plans that will start on June 17 till August 5. To register online, please follow the register button today or register today button to start the registration process, and students will also get 10% off the registration fee for the June, July, and August intakes. The discount will be automatically applied upon registration. Should you have further inquiries, please email me at ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca or give me a call 604-891-1256. Thank you, Lindsay.
Perfect. Thank you, Maggie. So, Derek, back to you. What kind of job opportunities are available for professionals who earn one of these designations? Maybe is there something other than just financial planning that they can do?
Yeah, I think I kind of alluded to, and I think this is a good question. A lot of students ask me this question as well. So, so it depends on what kind of apprentices you are. So if you're working at a branch right now that you're working for maybe credit union or big five banks, and I don't know, but usually that's how you kind of raise from you make your way from your bottom and this client corporate ladder, right? So starting as usual like a personal banker or just teller to financial service manager, FSM, and usually one or two levels. And when you start offering mortgages and one start offering mutual funds, and if you really want to up your game, you want to become a financial advisor and eventually financial planner. And again, as I mentioned, financial planner is a protected title in British Columbia. In Ontario, there's no restriction. So in order to get onto the financial planner, you need to have your CFP. And that's pretty much that you need, unless you want to go for the administrative route. Of course, there's actually plenty of opportunities in financial service industry. CFP is not mandatory, but it's definitely something that people do recognize, and it's a nice thing to have. If you're working at your personal practice, of course, a lot of times it's really depending on you and how you run your business. But in order to operate your if you want to call yourself the financial planner and to give the financial planning advice, then you need to have your CFP because it's protected title and it has its bylaw. So you will need to do that. So I would say it would be really like two kinds. One is from the big corporate route, and one is from the standard route. And if you do a CFP, it actually makes your switch transition much easier. So many years back, I do have a very, very close friend of mine that he was a life license, and he got his CFP, and he went to BMO as a financial planner directly. That he actually, I think he was very good in what he's doing, so he was making the move. And then without a CFP, it wouldn't have happened, or maybe not as smooth as we can observe. So.
Awesome, thank you. I believe we do actually have a question from Facebook that Rika is going to ask us now.
Okay, that's great.
Hello guys, excellent info session so far. We do have a question. The person is asking if a student needs to complete the CFP courses under the direct path and write the exam before the new rulings apply, will it be faster if I take the self-study modules with a course provider, or will it be more beneficial to do the courses being offered by Ashton College? I mean, of course, Ashton College, but any thoughts on that, Derek?
I think that's a good question. Also, so one thing that I didn't mention is that you don't need to follow the 12 courses by sequentially. So right now, for instance, Series 005 government benefits, you can take that. There's no conflict because they try to do this independent, so you can do that. And if your goal is to meet with the 2022 the education restriction, then probably yes, this is something that you can consider. I would not make a recommendation on doing that or not doing that. Is you have to assess because it's, studying independently, it takes more discipline. I think you can do that. It's definitely like all my destinations are pretty much self-study. So I think you can do that. It's really depends on your circumstances.
Awesome. That's all the questions that I have. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Perfect. So, Derek,
Yeah.
how has the industry changed during your years of experience? And what is the demand like for experts in the area?
Yeah, so industry change, I think this is a very interesting question. Although I think I keep saying this they are interesting, but actually they do. When I was started, when I get started, I always see the environment are completely different. So right now the interest rate is very, very low. So before, like back to like 7 or 8 years ago, be honest, it was easy in my industry that I was selling insurance mutual fund at the time. All I need to do is pretty much just call, just pick any life insurance company that's a Canada Life. I just need to pull their participating whole life and their dividend scale and look at this. For the past 30 years, they have a return of 8% on average, and no a single year that is reporting negative. And we were talking about widely no negative because it's a participating account. But that was easy, right? So it's 8%. Well, this is not something that you can get. But right now, that percentage is down to 5%. And a lot of people ask why, what's happening? And I think this is really something that really changing the atmosphere. So one is interest rate and one is kind of fee, a lot of fee compression, or the CIM2, if you heard this term before, is really the new standard in the industry. So before, for example, if you look in the mutual funds or your account statements, so 10 years ago, what happened was when they show you that they have a fee as a percentage, like a 2%. But today they have to show you in a dollar terms. So for example, if you're $100,000 and you think about 2%, you pay $2,000. And that number, I understand that 2% and $2,000 are really the same if you think about it, but it makes very, very different feel, at least from my perspective. So I think this is back to human behavior a little bit, but I think this is one thing that has been changed. So right now you can see a lot of, especially for the IRA advisors, they are changing to the fee-based model that they're charging independently instead of, but it's probably more on the investment side. A lot of things have changed, and I think will be more under the way. One is that fintech, or if you look at investment preferences, a lot of people are going to those like the robo platform. So for example, Wealthsimple or all of the big five banks, they are actually launching their own. So they're providing you some kind of services. Questrade, they have some kind of like consolidated portfolio to help you to manage your portfolio, just one simple click, for example. Those are the things that are pretty new. But however, I still think this profession is not going away. First of all, it's because think about this, you can do that, but those are the things that don't understand, they cannot comprehend your actual situation, they cannot assess your psychology, they cannot assess what's your investment experience, right? So these are the things that the machine cannot tell, or they have a long way to go. Comparing to the financial planning profession, we have to understand what individual is doing and what's their short-term, middle-term, and long-term goals. Are they planning to have children? Are they planning to have any life-changing events? Or are they planning, what is their focus? Is their focus more on risk management or more on the opportunity investment gains? So these are the things that we need to consider. So I still think that nothing can replace face-to-face and belly-to-belly. And I think the one cool analogy that I kind of heard before was that knowing which screw to turn is better than just giving a handful of screws and give an instruction kit. It doesn't work that way. So right now you can go on to Google and find any information. You can go on the robot advisor. They will tell you a bunch of this stuff. And it is, to be honest, it is overwhelming. Like even I can't digest them all. So I really believe this profession still has a lot of opportunities. And I do see the needs and demands are actually growing. Because right now, if you look at the wealth management model, it's really kind of binary that we do have a lot of affluent families to serve. So I think financial planning is, yeah, it's a good career to have for sure.
Awesome. So you did mention fintech there. So can you outline some big trends in fintech that will be useful for financial service professionals?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's interesting. And yeah, in addition to that, by the way, I also have a master degree in computer science. So I actually studied a little bit on the fintech before. So fintech, I think the one thing is that actually they make applications much easier. So right now, if you look at the major insurance corporations right now, they are actually accepting e-signature. And a lot of things can be done using the format. Of course, a lot of things they cannot be done yet for reasons that I don't know why. Probably regulatory. I'll just say it's regulatory. But there are the things that definitely will be changing. And the robot advisors are, I kind of just alluded to. Robot advisor is something to help you to kind of to give you investment recommendation in terms of asset allocation, whether you should put more money into the Canadian equity, US fixed income, Canadian fixed income, and when combine them, you can choose something called the optimal ratio between the investment return and the investment risk. So that would be the something that will be helping us. And I think in the future, there will be more and more. So that's the reason why we do see a lot of rising business like ETF. A lot of people like to use ETF nowadays, and I like to use different. Well, if you look at the platforms, there are some like a technical analysis platform. They always give you the signals. Of course, if they are always right, then of course they can. They shouldn't be publishing that. So that's why I always skeptical about that. But yeah, there's a lot of the tools that are being developed. And I think this is something that will be helping us tremendously. Being our clients, even I think last night I just had a discussion with my student that because during the pandemic, everyone's stay home and he told me that he's using Zoom. So I think Zoom is probably not something fintech related. It's really a communication tool, but it actually helps tremendously and they reshape how we do business. And I think this is something we need to adapt to. It's ongoing.
Definitely, yeah, a lot of stuff is still going to be on the computer talking to clients. I agree.
Absolutely. Maybe we can pass Turing tests one day.
So do you have any final words of advice or thoughts to share with everyone before we wrap up the session?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would like to congratulate you if you stay this long, or if you watch the playback, stay this long, because usually most people, at least from the research, that most people actually don't impact the first step. And you already did, which you actually trying to get something that will be improving your career prospect, or at least you are taking your first step to start want to know about these things. So I would like to congratulate you. I think this is a big step. Usually this is the first step, and next step is to find your way by enrolling, registering, or do more study and exploring. So I encourage you to do so. I personally find the CFP and my other predecessors being very beneficial to me personally and professionally. A lot of times it's not about whether I can use these destinations to get to my next level or get a job. Of course, that's an ideal outcome, of course, for a lot of people, and that's good things to have. But more to that, I think it's actually a self-fulfillment process that you actually get more confidence and you increase your financial readiness. That every time you see things, you can digest, you can analyze, and you have more comprehensive view, not just when people are saying things to you and you just adapt. And I think one thing for financial services, especially program like CFP, is that it's something that you can use it personally. You don't need to use just for career-wise. Like summer destinations is probably not going to, for example, like CFA, just right here, they are not going to help you unless you practice in investment industry. But the CFP is different. CFP will help you. Like I know how my register account works. I know how my TFSA works. I'm not trying to oversell. I'm just saying that from my experience, this is really the most practical one applied to my life. Yeah,
Perfect.
will be it.
Awesome. Rika, do we have any more questions?
No, looks like we're good to go.
Yeah, that'll be
Perfect.
great.
So
Awesome.
thank you for joining me, Derek. You've been amazing, and thank you
Yeah,
everyone
thank you, Missy.
for watching. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email Maggie at ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca or give her a call at 604-891-1256 or visit our website, ashtoncollege.ca. Thank you, everyone.